morning on the farm always began with a very special kind of light. It was never harsh, never hurried, and never eager to wake anyone with sharpness. The early sunlight only gently laid itself across the old wooden porch, as if afraid of disturbing the small creatures resting peacefully after a long night. On the weathered porch, faded by time, Milo, a little dog with soft fur and ears that always seemed to be listening to the whole world, was sleeping soundly. He was curled into a tiny bundle, his belly rising and falling with each steady breath. Milo looked like a pale brown cloud that the sun had forgotten on the porch. A thin ray of sunlight slipped through the fence and touched his ear. His small ear twitched. Milo still did not wake. He only shifted slightly, as if he were walking through a beautiful dream and did not want to leave too soon. The morning breeze carried the scent of fresh grass, soil still damp with dew, old wood, and the gentle fragrance of a new day. Everything blended together, soft as a song without words. At last, Milo slowly opened his eyes. His round black eyes, still heavy with sleep, blinked a few times. He lifted his head and gave a long, wide yawn, revealing a few tiny teeth. The yawn stretched so long that it felt as if the whole morning stretched with it. Then Milo pressed up on his front paws, rose to his feet, and stretched deeply forward. His back curved, his tail gave a little wiggle, and his front legs reached out as if embracing the crisp morning air. But that still was not enough. Milo stood fully, then shook his whole body with all his might. His fur trembled, sending a few tiny specks of dust flying into the light. It was Milo's way of telling his body, "Wake up now. Today is a new day." He lifted his small black nose, still wet, and took a deep breath. The morning smelled wonderful. So wonderful that Milo stood still for a few seconds just to enjoy it. The scent of newly cut grass somewhere far away. The smell of damp earth in the yard. The smell of the pond near the grass. The smell of feathers, grain, and sunshine. Such ordinary scents on a little farm, and yet to Milo, they were the smell of home. From the porch, Milo slowly padded down the wooden steps. Each old step creaked softly, as though greeting him. Below stretched the wide dirt yard, where there was always something to watch, something to play with, somewhere to run, and sometimes something to accidentally turn into chaos. On the wooden fence across the yard, Misha was lying in the sunlight. Misha was a tabby cat with soft striped fur and the kind of posture that always made her look like the queen of the whole farm. She was stretched comfortably across the warm wooden rail, sunlight draped over her like a thin blanket. Her tail flicked now and then. Misha was grooming herself slowly, carefully, with long, deliberate licks, as if every single hair deserved attention. Milo saw Misha, and his eyes lit up. He liked Misha very much, even if Misha did not always seem to like him very much in return. Misha lifted her eyes and looked at Milo slowly approaching from afar. Her gaze narrowed, lazy yet cautious. It was the sort of look that said, "I know you are coming closer, and I hope you are not bringing trouble with you." But Milo only wagged his tail and walked with light, friendly steps. Misha watched him for a few more seconds. Then, as if deciding the morning was far too lovely to concern herself with anyone, curled into a tighter ball, turned her face away, and gave herself permission to ignore the world again. In another corner of the yard, atop a golden haystack, still fragrant with yesterday's sun, Rusty stood proudly like a general. Rusty was a rooster with a bright red comb and feathers that always looked as though they had been carefully arranged. As soon as the sun climbed a little higher, Rusty spread his wings, flapped them a few times, and crowed loudly. His crow broke through the quiet softness of the morning, but no one minded. On this farm, Rusty's crow was also part of peace. After his proud greeting to the new day, Rusty strode across the yard, leading a few hens behind him. He scratched the ground and pecked at corn kernels scattered over the dirt, quick and precise. To Rusty, order on the farm was important. Every step he took carried the seriousness of someone on duty. Not far away, in the little clear pond, Daisy was swimming. Daisy was a white duck whose feathers shone in the sunlight, like drifting clouds upon the water. She glided gracefully, leaving round ripples spreading out behind her. Every so often, Daisy dipped her head underwater, leaving only her tail sticking up. A moment later, she would lift her head again and shake, sending sparkling droplets into the air like tiny pieces of glass. Everything was peaceful until a yellow butterfly fluttered past Milo's nose. Milo froze. His little nose twitched. His eyes widened. His head tilted to one side. The butterfly was so small, so light, so beautiful. It hovered before him like a piece of sunlight with wings. Milo stood still for a few seconds, completely enchanted. His tail began to wag. At first, it was only a soft little wag. But when the butterfly drifted lower, his tail wagged so fast that his whole back half swayed with it. He barked once, a tiny bark. It was the bark of joy, not warning. The butterfly was not afraid. It only tilted in the air as if inviting him. So Milo bent his legs and sprang up onto his hind legs, trying to reach it. He missed. The butterfly floated to the left. Milo turned after it. Then it drifted to the right. Milo spun after it, faster and faster, so quickly that for a moment he almost began chasing his own tail before remembering what his true target was. Then suddenly the butterfly flew straight across the yard. Milo dashed after it. He ran across the brown dirt, all four little paws moving quickly, ears flapping in the wind, eyes fixed on the yellow wings ahead. Once he slipped slightly on the uneven ground and nearly pitched forward, but he caught himself and kept running with all his determination. The butterfly landed on the rim of a metal water bucket near the fence. Milo grew even more excited and sped up, but by the time he realized he was running too fast, it was already too late. His front paws braked hard, the loose dirt sliding beneath them, his claws scraping two long lines across the ground. Milo could not stop. Crash! He slammed straight into the metal bucket. The bucket tipped over, and water spilled everywhere, splashing outward in a wide, shining circle under the morning sun. And at that very moment, nearby, Misha was still sleeping peacefully on the fence. The cold water splashed directly onto her. Misha sprang up as if launched by a spring. In an instant, the cat shot straight into the air from pure shock. Her fur, so sleek only moments ago, puffed up in every direction. Her eyes were wide, her ears flattened, and Misha let out a hiss that carried protest, outrage, betrayal, and horror all at once. Meanwhile, Milo stood frozen. He looked at the puddle, at the bucket, then at Misha. His expression said very clearly, What just happened?" But Misha had no time for that kind of innocence. She bolted straight toward the wooden post of the chicken coop, climbed it so fast that only the blur of her little paws could be seen, and within seconds she had leapt onto the tin roof. Bang! Her landing made a loud noise across the roof. Rusty, who had been pecking at corn nearby, jerked his head up at once. His whole body went rigid with alertness. His small black eyes stared at the roof, where Misha was struggling to regain her balance. Misha slipped slightly on the smooth metal. Clang,
Get back!
clang.
This is my yard!
The noise only
What?
made Rusty more suspicious.
Leave!
He drew in
Now!
a sharp
Okay,
breath,
okay, I'm going.
spread his wings, and cried out loudly, signaling danger to all the hens. In an instant, the farmyard that had been peaceful only moments before became a swirl of feathers, dust, and confusion. The hens scattered in every direction. One panicked hen flapped low right over Milo's head, making him duck. But instead of fear, Milo felt excitement. He took that sudden movement as an invitation to a new game. So Milo turned and started chasing Rusty. Rusty spun around and pecked sharply at the air in warning. Milo backed up half a step, but still barked happily, tail wagging
Cluck-a-doodle-doo.
furiously as
Hurry,
if to say,
girls.
"Play
here,
with
chicks.
me, play
Look at
with
this."
me." Up on the roof, Misha looked down at everything with a face full of supreme annoyance. From above, she saw dust rising, feathers drifting, Rusty shouting, Milo barking, paws running everywhere. A peaceful morning had been shattered into pieces by one foolish little dog and one yellow butterfly. At the pond, Daisy
Keep back.
heard it all
This is
too.
my land.
She
No
lifted
one is
her
allowed
head from
here.
the water
Keep back.
and blinked her round eyes. After listening for a few moments, Daisy let out a loud quack, as though calling all her duck relatives. Then she waddled quickly onto the grass, leading a little line of ducks toward the yard. The moment Milo saw Daisy, he forgot all about Rusty. He changed direction and ran straight toward the white duck, as if meeting an old friend. Daisy spread her wings and quacked loudly in warning. Milo stopped right in front of her, front legs bent slightly, tail wagging furiously, his face bright with joy. Behind them, Rusty darted past, kicking up a cloud of dust. On the roof, Misha could not help but let out an irritated meow. Then everything blended into one chaotic circle. Daisy and the ducks mixed into the confusion. Milo ran circles around both Daisy and Rusty. Rusty jumped onto a pile of firewood to escape him. Daisy gave Milo a small peck on the leg, as if to remind him that this was not a game. Milo hopped in surprise and stared at her with hurt confusion. On the roof, Misha crept carefully toward the edge so she could see better. But while moving, she accidentally knocked a tiny pebble loose. The pebble rolled down. Tap! It landed right on Rusty's back. Rusty jumped, convinced he was under attack, and crowed out in outrage. Daisy panicked as well and tripped over the same overturned bucket from earlier. The bucket rolled across the yard with a loud, clanging sound. Milo whipped his head around. The bucket was moving. Without hesitation, he chased after the rolling bucket, as if it were the most fascinating creature in the world.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Rusty flew down from the woodpile. Misha decided to leap from the roof. She landed beautifully, softly, gracefully, and unfortunately, right in front of Daisy. Daisy quacked loudly and flapped her wings into Misha's face. Misha arched her back and stepped away, all her fur puffing up again. Milo came rushing back from nowhere and stood right between them, his tail wagging like a feather duster. He did not understand why everyone was so tense. He only knew that this morning was very exciting. The 4 animals, Milo, Misha, Rusty, and Daisy, stood in a little circle, staring at one another in a brief moment where the entire yard seemed to hold its breath.
Ciao!
Then something very small and very magical happened.
Ciao, ciao, ciao!
Another butterfly fluttered by, drifting right past Misha's nose. This time, it was not Milo. It was Misha who lifted a paw and swiped at it, quickly, gracefully, purely cat-like. Milo saw this and immediately jumped up too, copying her. Rusty assumed there must be food on the ground and pecked energetically. Daisy stopped flapping and turned to preen her feathers instead.
Whimper.
A quiet softness slipped into the air. Milo gently nudged Misha's side with his nose, as though asking, "Are we okay now?" Misha turned her head. Milo held his breath. And then, instead of snapping, the tabby cat unexpectedly licked the tip of his nose. Just once. But it was enough to soften everything that had happened. Rusty lifted his neck, and instead of a piercing crow, let out only a short sound, softer than usual. Daisy gave her little tail a wiggle and waddled a few relaxed steps. The sun had climbed higher. The dust began to settle. The air no longer felt tense. Milo sensed that everything was all right again, so he cheerfully ran in circles around Rusty, inviting him to play. Rusty scratched the dirt, sending dust onto Milo's face. Milo sneezed in the cutest way, so cute that even Misha narrowed her eyes, as if trying to hide her amusement. After a while, Misha lay down on the ground and rolled back and forth to dry the fur that had gotten wet. Daisy found the little puddle left from the spilled bucket and dipped her beak into it. Milo saw the water and was delighted. He ran over and stepped right into the muddy puddle, splashing Daisy. Daisy turned and quacked in accusation. Milo froze, blinking, looking completely innocent. Nearby, Rusty observed everything with the air of a strict farm boss who had grown very used to childish trouble. And Misha had now become fixated on Milo's tail, which still would not stop wagging. That tail kept flicking in front of her like a living toy. At last, she could not resist. Pounce. She caught Milo's tail. Milo turned at once, but he was not angry. He only looked surprised, then crouched down. And so the two of them began rolling around together in a clumsy but gentle game across the dirt. Rusty saw this and came closer, pecking lightly at Misha's paw, as if reminding her not to go too far. Misha let go of Milo and turned to look at Rusty. Daisy shook mud from her feet, while the little ducks began making their way back toward the pond. After a while, Milo suddenly remembered the bucket. He ran off to find it and discovered it lying on its side in the dirt. Milo grabbed the handle with his mouth and dragged it across the ground. The bucket scraped noisily against the dirt. The sound clearly annoyed Rusty. He rushed over and blocked Milo's path. Milo dropped the bucket and barked a few times. Rusty stood there, stern and immovable. By now, Misha had climbed back onto the fence and lay stretched out, watching the drama. Daisy began leading the ducks back toward the pond. When Milo noticed Daisy leaving, he abandoned the bucket and ran after her. But just as he came close, Daisy turned around and gave one very clear quack, as if saying, "No, that is far enough."
I'm hungry.
Milo stopped. His ears
Not right
drooped.
now.
His tail slowed. For a moment, He looked very small and a little sad. At that time, Rusty had found an earthworm in the ground and was calling the hens over to share it. Misha half closed her eyes on the fence, warming herself in the sunlight. Milo returned to the metal bucket and lay down beside it, as if beside an old secret. The sun climbed higher, pouring light over the yard. The shadows grew shorter. The air turned warmer. The excitement slowly settled after such a dramatic morning. Rusty patrolled the yard at an unhurried pace, making sure order had returned. Daisy was back in the pond, swimming in peaceful circles. Milo lay in the sunlight, lifting his head now and then to watch Daisy from afar. Misha carefully licked each paw clean, as if unwilling to leave any trace of the morning's chaos. A gentle breeze passed through. Milo's fur rippled softly. Rusty rested on one leg in the shade. Milo gave another yawn, the yawn of a child who had played hard and was beginning to feel sleepy again. At that moment, Misha jumped down from the fence.
Keep them at bay.
She landed so lightly that she made
my
almost no
territory.
sound at all. Then she slowly walked toward Milo. Every step was relaxed and graceful, no longer guarded the way it had been that morning. Milo lifted his head to look at her. Misha came close, turned in a little circle, then lay down right beside him, pressing her body against the warmth in Milo's sunlit fur. Milo blinked. It almost seemed as though he could not believe it. Then, very naturally, he lowered his head and gently licked Misha's ear, softly and kindly. Misha did not object. She simply closed her eyes. In the distance, Rusty looked at the two small friends resting together. His posture softened, as though satisfied that everything had finally returned to where it belonged. He led the hens toward the shade of a tree. Out on the pond, Daisy tucked her head beneath her wing and drifted into a light sleep upon the water. Noon came to the farm slowly like that. No one had to apologize with words. No one needed a long explanation. A clumsy little dog could knock over a whole bucket of water, shock a fussy cat, and send chickens and ducks into chaos. But that same little dog, through innocence and a heart that did not know how to hold anger, could help everything become soft again. In the world of animals, some things are forgiven very quickly, not because they do not know sadness or irritation, but because they do not keep such feelings for too long. They get upset, puff up their fur, quack loudly, crow furiously, scatter in all directions.
Hurry, girls!
But then,
Over
when the
here,
sunlight
chicks.
is warm
Look
enough,
at this.
when the breeze is gentle enough, when a nose nudge or a soft lick appears sincerely enough, everything becomes normal again. Perhaps healing is sometimes like that. It is not the absence of chaos. It is not that no one ever hurts anyone else. It is that after everything, it is still possible to lie down beside one another in the sunlight,
This is my
to
land.
share
No
warmth,
one is allowed here.
and to let the afternoon pass in peace. Milo slowly closed his eyes. He could hear the soft sound of pond water in the distance. He could hear Rusty clucking quietly beneath the shade. He could hear the wind moving through the grass. He could hear Misha's steady breathing right beside him. Milo's paws were dusty from an entire morning of playing. Misha's fur, on the other hand, shone in the sunlight, sleek and soft as though it had never been splashed at all. Out there, Rusty preened his red-brown feathers in the shade, his comb still bright and proud. Daisy drifted like a white leaf across the calm surface of the pond. Above them, the sky was astonishingly blue. The wide yard had become much quieter. All that remained was life itself, slowing to the rhythm of a gentle noon. A leaf drifted down softly near where Milo was lying. He snorted a little, but did not wake. Misha opened one eye to glance at the leaf, then decided it was not worth the trouble and went back to sleep. Rusty called softly to the chicks in a voice gentler than his loud morning crow. The breeze moved across the grass near the pond, where Daisy remained peacefully adrift in her brief nap. The sunlight slowly shifted. A patch of shade crept over Milo and Misha like a soft noon blanket. If someone had stood far away and looked at the farm at that moment, they would have seen only a very simple scene. A little dog sleeping soundly, a tabby cat curled beside him, a rooster content in the shade, a white duck resting quietly on the water, and the whole yard glowing with a peace that did not need to try. But anyone who understood the language of chaotic mornings would know that peace was not something that appeared out of nowhere. It came after clumsiness, after misunderstanding, after shock, after annoyance, after the clanging sound of the overturned bucket, after paws racing wildly across the dirt, after all the little things that stirred the heart. And in the end, gentleness remained. Milo slept even more deeply. Perhaps in that sleep, he dreamed again of the yellow butterfly from the morning. But this time he no longer needed to chase it. The butterfly simply drifted slowly around him, around Misha, around Rusty, around Daisy, like a little piece of sunlight, reminding them that joy does not have to be caught in order to belong to you. Sometimes it is enough just to see it. Sometimes it is enough simply to know that a noisy morning can still end in warmth and peace. And sometimes healing is as simple as this: having a place to return to and lie down, having a few friends nearby, having sunlight on your back, wind in the garden, and the right to be clumsy and still be loved. Out in the yard, the noon light remained bright, but everything had grown gentle again. The farm breathed slowly, the pond breathed slowly, the tree shade breathed slowly. The whole day seemed to pause for a while, letting those tiny hearts rest after living so fully through the morning. Milo shifted a little. Misha pressed a little closer. No one said anything. Nothing needed to be said anymore. Only peace remained there, real, soft, and near. And noon continued to drift by like a lullaby.